Welcome to the Prolific Health and Fitness Podcast. If you're not watching on YouTube, that sucks for you because we're going to do this episode entirely in sign language. So, Stan, my first question for you is I just remembered that I don't actually know sign language. So,
Well, I don't
we'll get them
either.
next time. We're going to talk about New Year's resolutions and how not to add to the cliche of failing your New Year's resolutions. So, Stan, how do you usually go about making New Year's resolutions and not dropping the ball after the ball has dropped?
I set realistic goals.
Yeah.
So I set goals that I've probably been thinking about all year. But I also realize that I have to have things in place to make those a reality.
Hmm.
So, for example, let's say, hey, man, I'm in the market for a new car, right? I'm somebody who likes to do my research on stuff before I go through with it. But let's just go and say like let's say my car is a 2004 and I've just been waiting and waiting and waiting and I'm like, man, I'm going to run this thing until it goes out on me on the highway or something. Not the smartest thing in the world. I should have already been doing my research. I should make sure like, hey, my car run typically these cars, if well maintained, run to 300,000 miles. Boom. Okay, cool. I'm at 299, 99, 99. 1 mile away from it potentially failing on me. Well, I need to have done my research. I need to find a dealership that I feel comfortable spending my money with. But they also have what I'm looking for at not an astronomical price range that I can't afford. And also, in thinking about this in resolutions terms, if I waited until the first of the year, I might have already lost my car and I may have already been in the market for a new one. Well, think about this. What's more valuable than my car? My body, right? So if I'm already all throughout the year, I get to the 4th of July and I'm doing the all American thing, burgers, dogs, might even put a little sauerkraut on a brat or something like that. And I've been doing that all year. I'm already eating like crap all year long. And I started off the year trying to be in the gym with my resolution and I failed by February. It's because I didn't properly plan for that. So, one of the things that I've talked about in the past is planning backwards. And by planning backwards, you already kind of know what's coming down. Like you already know what's down the road for you. If you can properly plan backwards, you can fill in some of the little details as you start to get closer because it will actually make more sense once you start to get there.
Hmm.
But just realizing like around these holidays, I know I'm gonna be around family that wants to shove desserts in my face, and I'm going to have a moment of weakness and not be able to turn those down. Or, Valentine's Day. If you have a significant other, they're probably gonna want to go out somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Go out somewhere, have some good food, or sporting events. At sporting events, they don't necessarily have the most healthy of foods, and you may consume an alcoholic beverage or two. You like how I use some of your terminology there, but just these little things that you know are going to happen, you being able to be prepared for those puts you in a better spot than if you just say, you know what, don't know what's going to happen this year. I'm just going to wing it. It helps you a lot better if you at least have a plan. Even if it is a pretty loose plan, you being prepared puts you in a better spot to combat the things that will eventually knock you off your course.
Hmm.
What would you do if, let's just put you in the spot of a New Year's resolutioner in
Hmm.
terms of fitness?
Hmm.
What would you do if, you're like, hey man, 30 pounds overweight. I am very much so consumed by my work, which is a sedentary job.
Hmm.
Um, and I've been wanting to do this for a while, but the reason why you're thinking about doing it now is because you had a doctor visit that told you, hey man, might be time to lose a little bit of weight, might be pre-diabetic. What are you doing in order to make sure that you do not get put on insulin or you do not get put on these things that could really slow you down, what would you do?
Well, the first thing that I would do is get over it. So you said you'd want to do your research to find a car dealership that you were comfortable spending your money at. I
Yes.
don't know anybody that is comfortable spending any money at a car dealership, but it's necessary. There's
Yes.
no, I mean, you could win a raffle for a car, I suppose,
I'm
but
not
you're
that
still going to
lucky.
have to get a new one after that, right? So
Yeah.
most people who have not experienced some sort of exercise intervention in the past is because they either have some sort of preconceived notion about the culture of a gym or how difficult it's going to be or whatever it is. You're going to have to get over that, right? And that's one of those, like, I'm telling you this because I love you things.
Yep.
Got to get over it. There are some like ways around the difficult parts. Like, you could take Ozempic so that you're not as hungry, but if you don't fix the things that got you to the point where you needed Ozempic in the first place, as soon as you take Ozempic out, you go right back to where you were. You don't, the weight just doesn't magically stay off without you making changes.
Oh, rats.
The second thing that I would do is examine why it is that I actually want to accomplish this, right? So nobody really cares about making their doctor happy, but we do care about being able to live and experience the generations that come after us. We want to be around to raise our kids and play with our kids, and we want to be around to play around with our grandkids as well, and you're gonna be alive, so you might as well enjoy the years that you've got, right? So
Yeah.
nobody wants to have to hire an aide to put their groceries away because they can't hold a jug of milk when they're old, or they can't make it up the stairs because now they're too overweight. But the underlying reasons of why it is you figure it's probably a good idea to start or choose some sort of New Year's resolution, you need to take some time and acknowledge those, right? Are you are you doing it for your family because you want to be able to play around and live and love life with your kids and grandkids? Or are you doing it because, I mean, this is a harsh one, but you realized that in a dire situation, you aren't going to be of much use, right?
That's the one that keeps me going though.
I mean, 100%. I enjoy the fact that I can go out in public and I know that I at least have a baseline ability to handle whatever shit may hit the fan, right?
Yes.
Whatever your reason may be, you got to figure out what that actually is. Not the, well, I want to get my cholesterol in order. No, you don't want to get your cholesterol in order. You want to do something else that happens to get your cholesterol in order. So why do you want to do that? Then, once you've figured out that, all right, this is going to take some hard work, so I need to get over it, and there are some really important reasons why I need to get over it and make this happen, how do you go about doing that? Well, as a science guy, I like to bring up some numbers and figures. So the
No facts.
three biggest things that you can quantifiably rely on improving your odds of succeeding or at least maintaining your commitment to your New Year's resolution. First one is SMART goals. So something that is definable, measurable, achievable, trackable, right? So get healthier. What does that mean? What does get healthier mean? That's super vague. How do you track your health? What metric defines health? How do you set a date to be healthy by? What is that? That's confusing, right? Don't be
is,
vague with your
absolutely.
goals. Be specific with your goals. Say, I want to lose 45 pounds by May. I want to lose 10 pounds by February. I want to be able to bench press my body weight by the end of January, whatever that may be. Set a goal that's specific, that's measurable, and that has relation to wherever you're at and why you want to go about this New Year's resolution. The next biggest thing is it needs to be a positively oriented goal. And what I mean by that is the goal itself has to have a positive connotation. So it shouldn't be, I need to stop doing this thing, or I'm not going to do this thing anymore. It needs to be, I'm going to start doing this thing, or I'm going to get better at doing this thing, right? Something about that seems to be a better psychological motivator. And so those two things alone are going to improve your odds of success by about 20%, 22%. And then the next one is social accountability. So bringing somebody along in your journey or being part of a community improves your chances for success by like 17 to 20%, depending on what study for psychology you're looking at here. But that's a pretty obvious one, because if one of the cliche things that you tell people is, if you set a goal for yourself, tell other people about it, because then they'll know that you suck if you don't follow through on your goal.
Right.
You can't just keep it a secret to yourself. Well, if you join a community of people, not only do you get that positive feedback and encouragement from all those other people that are in the same boat as you, that are all trying to work on becoming a better version of themselves, but you know that you're not just letting yourself down if you don't follow through on that goal, but you're letting that community that you've joined down as well. You're letting down that community you've joined as well. That's a better way to say
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
And they help keep you accountable. You show up and you have kind of formulated this group of these 6 people or whatever that come in here and they whoop ass, and it makes you want to whoop even more ass. It feels good. It's motivating. It's encouraging. And it's going to be a pretty powerful tool to help you stay on that goal. So get over it. Figure out why it is you're actually looking to accomplish whatever goal that you set for yourself.
Yeah.
Set an actual goal, not a vague directional goal.
It's over there somewhere.
Yeah. Let yourself be socially accountable. And whatever that 5th thing was that I forgot.
I forgot it too.
Yeah, it was before the socially accountable one.
But you pick realistic goals.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think the 2 biggest ones are going to be the most important, because if you can accept I remember what it was. Actually, I didn't say this, but this is another important one. You have to remove the negativity from failure, because you're going to fail. So you don't approach it with an abstinent mindset. You don't say, shoot, I ate a cupcake, my whole diet's ruined, I failed, I suck.
Let me eat another.
Yeah, I couldn't do it, so I quit, I guess.
Right.
No. Each time you fail is an opportunity to learn from what caused that failure and be just a little bit better the next day. And this isn't just like a soft, nice thing that we tell non-athletes. This is probably one of the biggest things that I stress to my super hardcore bodybuilding athletes. They have really specific plans, and each detail of their plan has a specific goal behind it, or a specific purpose behind it. And for all sorts of reasons, consistency may not be 100%. And they'll beat themselves up, because to them, that's their passion, that's their sport, and they're not giving 100% towards it, and they really beat themselves up. And people with more general fitness goals do the same thing.
Yeah.
But if you can understand that, okay, I ate this cupcake, that sucks, I wasn't supposed to do that, I know, but it's not the end of the world, because now I can analyze what behavior or what thought process or what led to that. I can acknowledge it and now try to formulate a plan to be a little bit better tomorrow, right? Well, first of all, if I'm on a diet, why did I even buy those cupcakes? That's probably a good thing to maybe put a reminder in your phone. If you go grocery shopping on Mondays, you get a reminder on Monday morning, don't buy cupcakes. And then when you're in the store, you're going to be like, you know what? There's really no good reason for me to have these cupcakes in the house. Random example, but figure out a way to learn from the things that you get behind on. If you tell yourself like, man, I'm kind of tired this afternoon. I normally go to the gym at 1, but I'm gonna wait until 6.
Yeah.
And you wait until 6. Now it's dark outside and it's even colder. And you're like, well,
Maybe I shouldn't go.
Is it that important? And then you wake up the next day and you're like, man,
I wish I went.
I could have gone to the gym. I could have gone to the gym and I could have worked towards my goals. Well, why didn't I go to the gym? Okay, well, I waited and my motivation dropped because it was super dark outside. It was cold. Maybe it was raining. I was tired from whatever else I did that day. Maybe I shouldn't let myself wait until the evening to go to the gym anymore.
Yeah.
And then not only do you make sure that never falls off again, but you also check a box of self-improvement there. And you formulate an even better habit or an even better level of self-control because now you're aware of it. But you're definitely not going to be very successful beating yourself up. You're just going to create a negative feedback loop, and it's not going to do you any good.
Damn.
Does a lot.
How do I follow that? Well, I would say one of the things I guess I would ask you is, so let's say, for example, they didn't buy the cupcakes, but the cupcakes are at a function or or an event they're at, family event, family gathering, social gathering, all that stuff. How would you tell someone to navigate that? Like, because for me, my family of peer pressure, they peer pressure you in more ways than one. Like, man, how come you ain't try none of this? Like, how come you guys ain't tried a potato salad? How come you ain't try that sweet potato pie? Like, they don't want it in their house. We talked about this on the previous episode. How would you navigate that? Like, how would you teach our listeners how to prioritize their resolution over potentially like destroying it before it even starts?
Yeah. Honestly, that's a tough one for me to empathize with because I've never had that problem from either direction. My family, they've never been particularly pressuring. Like, I went through high school health class when I was a sophomore. I learned what makes you fat, and I was fat at that time. And I was like, "Oh, I should stop doing that." And I changed. Like, as a 15-year-old, I was like, "Hey, mom and pop, these are the foods that I need you to buy me, and I'm not going to eat these foods if you guys buy them." And they're like, "Okay, no big deal." And I've also just always been a very irreverent person, and it would the idea at getting offended that somebody did not want to eat something that you made because of health reasons would baffle me personally. So if there were somebody around me that got offended because I chose not to eat or not to eat very much of something for health reasons, I I could not express to them how little I cared. So it's difficult for me to try to give good advice on that because it's just fortunately for me, not something I've ever had to struggle with. But I would imagine that the two biggest things you could do are, again, remember why it is that you are doing what you are doing.
Who you are.
Yep. If you're doing this because you realized that there are only a few date ideas that you can go out on or go out with your wife on because you can't go for long walks because you get out of breath. You can't go play football in the yard with the kids because your joints hurt so bad and you can't get up and down.
Back out.
You remember that when you're trying to ask yourself, should I have some of Aunt Susan's apple pie?
Aunt Susan makes it best.
Makes it pretty tough for you to be like, you know what, I will have a piece of this apple pie. That being said, if you give in to those temptations, it's not time to beat yourself up. It's time to say, okay, why was I unable to resist that temptation? And it might be as hardcore as you may have to specifically communicate with that family member and be like, listen, Susan, your apple pie is delicious. It makes me feel things that would be inappropriate to describe. I want to put it in my mouth, but I shan't, Susan. I would greatly appreciate if you would kind of meet me here and understand that I'm trying to make these decisions to be a healthier version of myself. And if Susan can't understand that, then
bye, Susan.
I'm sorry, But at that point, why do you even care about what that person thinks? Why would you even care if that person gets offended? If that person cares more about their personal gratification than your health or you reaching whatever goals you decide to set for yourself, because they're your own damn goals and you don't have to justify them, why are you going to care?
Oh, man. Listen, I grew up in a family where one person jump on you, they all jump on you. That's how it's always been.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, over the years, I think people have realized, oh, well, he's a fitness guy. Like this is just kind of like what he does. Even back when I was married, like my mother-in-law would legitimately be like, Stan, go get another plate. Go get another one. And dude, I did. That Mexican food held me over for real. I was like, man, so good. I'd eat 3 plates of something and I'd take 2 plates home. Like it was because at Christmas, that's what you do, man. Like, especially in the bigger families where it's like food is our comfort. We've had an episode about that too, where it's like food is the comfort. But I think in terms of how to make sure that you still have a good holiday season, but you come out of the holiday season not feeling like, you know, you belong at the chum bucket. You really need to make sure that, like I said, I think that people can navigate it by planning for it. But also, I think people like kind of like you said, like your goals are your goals. You have to remember why you're doing it. Remember who you are. Like if Auntie Susan's apple pie makes you feel things that will make you want more of that apple pie, then maybe you shouldn't dive in. But let's just say, for instance, hey, Aunt Susan, can you potentially make something for me on the side here? Like, don't mean to be that guy, but if you really want me to have the apple pie, then maybe slice me like this much and weigh it out for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You don't have to approach it either, again, with that abstinent mindset. And so you don't necessarily have to say, I mean, you can, and this is a totally viable option. You don't
Right.
have to say, hey, Aunt Susan, can you not make this pie? But I'm a big believer of what we preach most of the time as having a healthy relationship with food
Yes.
is not a healthy relationship with food. Because they always, like when people talk about, oh, doing tracking macros gives you an eating disorder. Like, no, understanding that what you put in your body has an outcome is not an eating disorder. So understand that in reality, this piece of pie is going to be pretty dense in calories.
Yeah.
But if I want this pie bad enough, I'm going to take the 3 minutes a day to track all of my food and understand how many calories I have left that I can consume without negatively contributing towards my goals, or at least without largely working against myself. Because, like, listen, man, if you eat 200 extra calories on Thanksgiving, that's not a big deal, right? It is okay to splurge occasionally and to cheat a little bit, as long as you understand objectively that it doesn't matter how good you are the rest of the year.
Right.
It doesn't make your body disobey the laws of thermodynamics. If you eat really healthy for 10 months out of the year and then Aunt Susan brings that pie over, that does not mean that you can eat that entire pie and not suffer any negative consequences. That's not what a healthy relationship with food is. That's a relationship with food where you don't understand the objective reality of what food is. If you want to eat that entire pie, eat that entire pie, but you need to understand that you're going to have to do something to work that pie off.
100%.
Or you're going to have to make sure that, if you're in a diet phase, most of the time when I have clients who are dieting down during the holidays, I'm like, listen, you know how to eat a little bit smart, control your portions a little bit, but don't even worry about tracking your food.
Right.
If you gain a pound or two from Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's fine. We're hopping right back into losing fat with our regular diet. It's not going to put you behind that much.
I think for some people, though, the issue lies with once the holidays come around, they start eating that way, and then they can't stop eating that way.
Yeah. So you just got to acknowledge that this is a special occasion, right? So again, there's a million ways to skin a cat. You can choose to track your calories and have an objective idea of what you're putting in. You can understand that, okay, this is a special occasion. It's Thanksgiving, so I'm going to try some of this pie. I'm going to try some of that stuffing, and then I'm going to get back into it for whatever period of time. Or if you're that convicted to your goals, then just stick to them. I had a grandma die. And right before she died, she did that old, like slip into a coma thing.
Yeah.
And that's when I went and I said my goodbyes. Well, then she had an open casket funeral. And there was no chance in hell that I was going to walk up to that casket because she weighed like 50 pounds by the time she passed away. I didn't want to see her like that. I wanted to remember her the way that I remembered her growing up.
Yeah.
Well, I had this cousin or uncle there. I always call him uncle, but I think technically he's my cousin.
He's older.
Yeah. And he
Yeah.
says to me, he's like, come on, let's go say goodbye to your grandma. And super nice guy. I love him to death. Probably one of my favorite relatives. He's like, come on, let's go say goodbye to grandma. And I was like, no, I already said my goodbye. He's like, come on, no, we need to go say goodbye to your grandma. And I was like, no, I already said goodbye. And I think I was like 16 at this time. And he says to me, come on, it's time to go be a big boy. We need to go say goodbye. And I was like, Uncle, I need you to understand you're going to have to get physical with me if you want me to go up there and say goodbye, because I already have.
Yeah.
Obviously, totally different than maintaining New Year's resolutions. But the point is, I knew what was going to be best for me. And there was nothing that anybody there was going to be able to do to get me to do something that I knew was going to be bad for me.
Right.
And I'm a big believer in just being strong in your convictions. And so if you're going to do this thing, then do this thing, or understand just the objective reality of what you're doing and be okay with the negative consequences. If that means it takes you 3 weeks longer to hit your body fat goal and you're fine with that, okay, cool. You're
Right.
fine with that. But at the end of the day, if set a goal, understand the importance of that goal, make it an actual quantifiable goal, be positive in your approach to it, and the failures are not failures as long as you learn from them.
I agree with that. And make sure that, kind of like we talked about with the SMART goals, just make sure that you're doing things to lead up to the bigger goals.
Mhm.
You're doing those little things that may appear to be like footnotes, but the footnotes are really important
Mhm.
when it comes down to it, because you're never going to have a full sheet of music until you until you look at the entire scope of things and you say, man, I kind of need this here. I need to make sure that I've got the groundwork laid, and I'm continuing to lay the groundwork, because it's not going to be, you're not going to have a forever foundation. It's one of the things I look at when I talk about fitness, and even just like setting goals, is fitness is a contract that you have to renew with yourself
Yeah.
every single day.
I like that a lot.
And if you don't, then you're going to see the after effects of it. Like I used to, man, in my 20s, I used to be a guy that was just like, I could just eat whatever and I'd be fine. I don't know if it was just genetically speaking, but I felt like, man, I can't lose my love handles. And I feel like that's what was really hanging on to me, was just like, I didn't commit the way that I wanted to commit, or that I should have committed to what I was doing at that time. So I wasn't truly renewing the contract. I was kind of signing the contract and looking at it and saying, well, I could probably get away with this.
Mhm.
So we have to keep in mind that food isn't the enemy. We have to keep in mind that when we set these goals, we have to make sure that we're really attacking these goals with everything that we possibly can. If we don't have the information, there's plenty, like we live in the age of information. There's plenty of ways to find out what's good information and what's bad. And then one of the biggest things that I say is, if you feel like you're going to slip into a moment of weakness, find someone or a group of someone's to hold you accountable.
Yeah. 1,000,000%. And if you feel like you're super far down the rabbit hole and you're like, man, I'm 400 pounds. There's just no way I can't. There's no way I could do this.
Yeah.
Absolutely can. You absolutely can. If you could get there, you can come back from there.
Right.
I have seen people who have never stepped foot in a gym, never tracked their calories, decide that their first toe dip into fitness was going to be prepping for a bodybuilding show. The most arduous, rigorous, and detailed diet and training plan that you can imagine. And they decided to go from 30% body fat to 5 to 7% body fat. That was they're like, sure, let's do it. So you absolutely can do it, but it's baby steps, right?
Yeah.
Small steps still leave footprints in the sand, which is super cringy, but it's true.
Yeah.
And if you're starting your journey by looking for the easy way out, stop. Reevaluate your goals,
Yeah.
accept that if your goals are important enough, you're willing to work for them. And then don't try to look for fads, right? Keto is a perfectly fine, well, keto is a diet. It can be okay. Carnivore can be okay. Low carb, high fat can be okay. High carb, low fat can be okay. Pescatarian, is that a diet or a religion?
Both.
That's a diet. That's a diet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fish. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Mediterranean, the caveman diet. Those are all fine diets, but none of them have anything special about them. None of them do anything neat inside your body. I don't care what fitness influencer you've heard talking about this super specific mechanism of action. That one mechanism of action is one of millions occurring at any given time, and almost certainly there are other things that are making up for that. Every single diet, when calories are equated, weight loss is exactly the same, and the proportion of weight that comes from fat is almost exactly the same. The difference is so small it might as well not even exist. So don't look for a fad unless that fad fits your lifestyle. If you like eating a buttload of meat and you're not really big on grains, okay, fine. Do carnivore, make sure to take your multivitamin, and you should still eat vegetables and probably some fruits because you need fiber, but you can call yourself carnivore, whatever you want to do. If you want to do keto, great. If you want to do high carb, low fat, great. Make sure that whatever route to your end goal you choose is one that you could see as a permanent lifestyle, just with the portions adjusted up or down depending on what your goals are. For me personally, I don't really have a style of diet. I still eat all the foods that I want to eat. I just make sure that within those foods are also the foods that I need to eat, and then I control my portion sizes. And that's how I like to do it. It means that I have to track my calories, but it's not nearly as much of a pain in the ass as most people think it is. It takes me like a cumulative 3 minutes throughout the day. But if that's not your thing, fine. Try intermittent fasting. And, like Isaac said, listen to your body. And if you restrict your eating window enough and you make sure that you don't stuff yourself, then it's likely that you'll end up eating fewer calories than you need and you'll start gaining weight. Whatever you got to do. But don't pick some random thing because you were told that that's the one thing that you can do, unless that random thing sounds like something you'd enjoy. And then by all means, give it a try, but understand that it's not that special thing that's helping you reach
Magic
those
pill.
goals. Yeah. And if you are looking at some of these semaglutide derivations that are coming out, Ozempic, Wegovy, they exist and they can help you lose weight, but they do nothing to help you keep the weight off. All it is basically it's a fancy appetite suppressant, and it can have some insulin sensitivity benefits if you're a diabetic, but you probably shouldn't take it long term. And if you don't do something to fix the underlying habits that got you there in the first place, then you will just add to that statistic that you hear all over Facebook of, 70% of people gain all the weight back. Well, that's not the drug's fault. That is your fault for not changing the things that got you there in the first place so that you could try to take the easy way out. Again, what is the reason that you're trying to do this? It's probably a pretty important one. So you better be okay with putting in at least a little bit of work.
And I think that that's probably a good place to end.
Yeah.
Because, hey, without the work that you put in, you're not going to get there anyway.
100%. We tell you this because we love you. We truly do. And something that frustrates us is when people try to sugarcoat things. So, we just try to tell it how it is. And whatever obstacles you feel like may be presenting themselves in your journey towards your New Year's resolutions, I guarantee there's a workaround. Everything has a workaround. Every problem has a solution. Every obstacle has a way to jump over it. All you have to do is figure out what that obstacle is and utilize the resources that you have at hand.
I love that you said that. So if somebody can't tell you the truth, they don't love you as much as they say they love you.
100%. Yep.
And you need to keep on with these goals. Just keep trying things. Keep trying things. Keep reaching out for help. Don't be afraid of that. And we will see you next time.
100%. We'll sign out in sign language.